Nice. All right. Well, I'll kick it off. Welcome everyone to Options Talk with Marty. Today is Wednesday, June 28th. I think this is the first Options Talk since the Bitcoin ETF announcement. Today we have special guest, the Flow Horse. You may know him. He's been around this space for quite some time, especially on the trading side. But happy to have you. And let's get into it. Maybe start off by giving a little bit of a background on type of products that you trade, where your comfort zone is, when you got into crypto, stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. So my background, I started by trading single name equities. I've been trading now for, I'm 38, so I guess around 17, 18 years. Not trading effectively, but just in terms of being present in the market. Started, like most people, trading single name stocks. Worked briefly at a brokerage during college, right out of college. Moved on to trading futures, trading equity index futures, trading the ES, then trading crude oil, and then I started trading started paying attention to crypto in 2016, but basically turned it into a full-time pursuit in 2017, and didn't really trade any legacy from that period on, like on and off, keeping an eye on the market, but having no real presence in equity index futures or crude oil or any of that. And I've been primarily trading crypto ever since. The last like 6 months plus, I started getting very active trading futures again. But yeah, I mean, I mostly trade Delta One products. I've a decent amount of experience trading options. Not as much experience as probably some of the people on this call, but yeah, I definitely I think that they're going to play a bigger role in this market. So, naturally we'll start focusing on more of those products moving forward. But yeah, I'm definitely, my area of competence, unlike Marty, is not in options. But yeah, I've been trading for a long time, and it looks like I'm going to be doing this for a little while longer. I just had a daughter. But yeah, I mean, crypto's here to stay. So I can't see myself leaving this market. It's always kind of a sign that, a bottom is close when you start looking at other markets again, just because the ball drops in this market and there's really nothing worth taking advantage of. But then, vol picks up. And I think this is probably the easiest poker table to play at compared to every other market. So here we are again.
Yeah, that's a good intro. I got a couple questions going into that. I guess it's pretty hard to leave crypto right when we're doing $5,000 moves in Bitcoin.
Muted or?
Can you hear me, Horse?
Horse, if you can't hear him, then you gotta force close the app on your phone and reopen it.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
I can hear everybody.
Yeah, this happened to me last week.
It's the Bird app.
Yeah, I don't know why it does this.
I actually had an issue trying to tag people recently on the Bird app that I haven't had. I don't know, like Jeff, tagging Greeks like Jeff. I looked up at Jeff, and his name starts with at Jeff. He should be the first one on the top, but he wasn't, so that's interesting.
That means he's search banned. He's on timeout for something. Maybe
he's on sound too much vol.
Yeah, I guess so. He's got vol dealers on mute.
Hey, they don't want us, I guess. Tolga, are you there? Maybe we can ping back and forth about
I'm here, my man.
How
still
are
in Turkey?
You? Oh, I just got back to Brazil last night.
All right. Yeah, look like you're on quite the tour.
Oh, the Marty World Tour comes to an end. I'm tired. Okay.
Oh, those pictures are great.
Yeah, I'm trying to add Horse back in. Is he in? DK, any help?
I don't know, man.
What? while he's coming in, I do want to add something that I saw on Twitter, and it was an interesting comment by Larry Fink. Now, he's never been really pro crypto. He's always even mentioned, particularly, that BlackRock will always be a follower, not a leader in the space. So that's sort of been their stance and mantra since day one. But he came out with this, I don't know where the snippet came from, maybe an interview, but it just resonated with me. And he said, we got about 3,000 hits on our website for monetary policy and about 600,000 hits on Bitcoin. And he basically goes on to say that, like, it's almost as if like he gave up, because I don't think he's really much of a crypto person, but it's just to the point where it's so loud in his face. I think they have no other option but to do that. And I think that they would be alienating an entire growing clientele base, right? This younger generation that's coming through that is a little bit more accepting of crypto in general. So I thought that was really interesting to see that comment that he posted.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because we've been talking for a year now, almost. I don't know, January, 6 months, and the Tolga's saying, what if crypto goes to 20 volt product? How do we go there? How do we do about that? And there was no catalyst on the horizon for anything. And then, bing bong, here's a catalyst we picked up from, I don't know, low or high 30s to 50s fall. And now it's just, this is the new AI, right? This is the new shiny toy that everybody's coming to pick up. One second, Tolga. Of course, it says that I got you here as the co-host, but I can't hear you, and it says you're not talking. Anybody?
I don't hear him either.
It says I can't. It says I can't even invite him. Fuck. Do we want to relaunch the space? This is requested. Okay, hold on.
You guys hear me?
Yeah. Of course. Hear me? Oh, connecting. Okay, nice. We got you now. We're back.
All right, so should I go through a quick synopsis again?
No, we all heard you. I heard you perfectly. Yeah, I don't know. Tolga and I were going back about the BlackRock thing, and I don't know. We can get a little bit into that, but I don't know. We can circle about that.
I think you're starting to get into crypto Twitter. Maybe give some people some background. I remember you with a different Twitter name. Yeah. I don't know if you're trying to distance yourself from that, but kind of, discuss your coming into the space, what it's been like, stuff like this.
I was Cantor Clark. Not much besides the name. Obviously, Clark is not my name. Ryan's my name. I think everyone knows that by now. I don't know. I was feeling like I needed a change. I feel like since my daughter was born, I've been changing a lot of things. But yeah, I came here, and like I said, I started paying attention in 2016. I mean, to be honest, I wrote the space off. Like the subgroup of people that I thought were involved in crypto, they just I felt like didn't mesh with who I was, and I felt like it was like I wrote it off like drug money, honestly, for the dark web. But I started paying a lot more attention when some of my colleagues who were portfolio managers at the time So naturally, I started paying a lot more attention. And at the time, like I said, I was just coming off of. And honestly, the transition from, this is before even knowing much about the market, the transition from trading a product like crude oil to crypto, minus all the different fundamental differences, was actually pretty accommodative in terms of the liquidity profile, how price moved, the level of volatility. Anyone who's traded like crude oil, or if you want to step it up a notch, like nat gas, or trade the NQ or even ES the last year or so. It was a for me. risk premia is the way it is for a reason. Can you guys still hear me? Because it just said I cut out.
I'm losing you a little bit, but I'm following you. Yo, can you hear me? I can hear you, but you're fading in and out a little bit.
Hey, can you hear us?
Yeah. Did I cut out?
A little, but I'm still following.
Can you hear Marty?
I can't.
Oh, that's the problem. Okay, I'm gonna leave and I'll come back.
Okay, so Marty's gonna leave and come back.
So am I cutting out, or
you're cutting out? You're cutting out a little bit, but I'm still tracking.
Okay.
But maybe, who knows? You know, it's that farm internet.
Yeah. While we're still waiting on him to come back, question for you in regards to like, where do you stand? Like, so get the general
farm
idea
internet,
of, like,
as in my internet? Nah, man, yes. I'm in New York. I got the fastest internet you could get. I've had internet troubles long enough to where I finally settled that.
Talk to me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Oh, finally. That was me, I guess. I don't know. You were cutting in and out.
Jesus
I
Christ.
was cutting in and out.
Yeah, so I guess what I was saying was it was an easy transition, but there was it felt like sort of a leap of faith to trade this market on a lot of the platforms, because coming from a traditional background, you know, you're KYC'd out the ass. You feel pretty secure on every brokerage platform, at every, you know, using execution software. There's really not a whole lot to that versus, you know, taking the leap of faith, using VPNs, going on exchanges that are not permissible in the United States. So there's a big sort of barrier in that sense, and that's the reason I think why obviously the risk is priced the way it was. There was a really good quote by Ewan Sinclair, and he talked about risk premia and like $50 on the sidewalk, and how, you know, $50 on the sidewalk is not going to stay there for too long. And legacy markets, kind of an analogy for efficient markets, whereas crypto is like it's $100, but it's in the middle of the highway, you know. So you have to sort of take that risk just to be here, and it's not priced that way for free. But I came to this market, it felt like a very, like, I mean, it was, and it is a very retail driven, sort of technical driven market, kind of memey, kind of comical in a sense. Like a lot of the technical patterns that, you know, you would be scoffing at ended up working for the most part. So it just felt like kind of the amateur poker table, and you want to play where, you know, where you have an edge. And I never left. You know, I've ended up growing my presence here and turned it into something that has really worked out. And I haven't seen a reason, like I said, until recently, to go back to trading legacy markets, just when shit got really boring. But yeah, I don't want to go too long into everything because I'll just end up cutting out and need to repeat myself. You guys all heard that, right?
Yep, I got you there. Can you hear me now? I feel like I'm in a Verizon commercial. Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty interesting being in the crypto space. I never traded the legacy markets. I'm not even that old, right? I don't know, you were saying like you've been trading for 17 years. I probably officially have been trading for, I don't know, 7 years or something like this. Before that, I was, you know, just like everybody else. Oh, I think I should buy this because it's going to go up, or sell this because it's going to go down, but you have no edge or any idea necessarily what you're doing, right? I don't think you know a little bit about Marty, if anybody's listening for the first time. The Premia options nerd, the Vaultard, as some people say. And I'm doing some back-end writing for Premia, but on the main front, we run a small boutique crypto fund focusing on selling crypto options mostly. We'll turn into buyers when the vol regime shifts, but for now, it's been a little boring since November, since FTX, right? And going into legacy markets, I'm only coming into legacy markets to trade the shiny new toy, if that's NVIDIA or AMD, or if I'm buying, you know, leaps on some, I don't know, Amazon or whatever that I was buying in the past. Nothing too, you know, not high frequency trading, TradFi or anything like that. It seems like an endless money pit, right? Whoever's the closest is going to win. I got a couple questions for you, Horseman Clark. When it comes to trading preferences, I know you said you normally trade Delta One, but what brings you into options? Not just that the space is going to grow or that you think that the space is inefficient, but what's bringing you into options over perps or spot?
Well, I mean, if you go back, like I was talking about options probably 4 or 5 years ago as being just a good sort of barometer to pay attention to, just because there's kind of a filtering mechanism in a product like that. It's a way more sophisticated product. The people involved are usually a little bit more galaxy brained, I'll say. And I felt like it was a good market to pay attention to because, if anything, it could offer some alpha in terms of like leading indicators when it comes to flows in that market versus like paying attention to flows in futures market. So I always felt like that the fact that there was sort of that knowledge gap or filter, as I said, was something that made it worth paying attention to. And at the time, like I was on Deribit. I had an account on Deribit, and then everything obviously locked down in a way that is far different than it was a few years ago. I still have an account on Deribit now, but I figured because of that, because of just that filter, that it was always worth paying attention to. In terms of like trading futures versus trading options, like I said, I think it's going to change and transition. Like if you're trading legacy markets, like the S&P absorbs more optionality than anything else. Like the options market, a lot of the time sways the underlying market. Whether you're talking about like, for example, like 0 day to expiry options are a pretty good example on the impact that they've had on like intraday flows. I don't think like the crypto options market is that pronounced yet or that significant. From a liquidity standpoint, it's obviously become a lot more attractive, but perps were always far more liquid. That's where like retail was. That's where a lot of the positioning accumulated on behalf of retail. But if you traded perps long enough, you obviously realize that it's easy to get chopped up trading perps, because there is that path dependency, and a lot of people in this market are using leverage to amplify rather than diversify, or to be capital efficient. So options have that benefit, options have the benefit of one, allowing you to just express your view in the market like in a far more dynamic way than Delta One products. And I think, like I said, I mean, the options market is eventually going to mature in a way that, I don't want to lock myself into saying this, like it could change my mind, but in a way that probably dwarfs the futures market. Now we have like, this market is completely different from legacy markets. It's obviously not centralized, like the flow is really fragmented, but I think that the way that everything's going, this market's getting kind of lassoed by legacy incumbents, and we'll see it kind of transition in the normal, chronological progression of how products transition in legacy markets as they mature. And again, as legacy incumbents sort of take over and take the market out from under us.
Yeah, I always say options are the best financial instrument to position yourself profit in any condition, right? If it's going sideways, you can be selling options, you can sell the box, you can sell a spread both sides. If it's going up and you hold a lot of spot, you can sell covered calls and I always say make income, but some people want to fight that terminology, whatever. Especially when we're just like balls down since November, just down and to the right. Crypto Twitter is like a sad and dismal place. Everybody's fighting, everybody's posting moon charts. I mean, it's a little bit of a meme that we live in, and I think there's only, 10 to 20 people on crypto Twitter that you should actually somewhat pay attention to. But besides that, the space is filled with lots of LARPs and a lot of, shilling of random coins and scams and all kinds of stuff that is super lame that I think we should grow out of in the next couple cycles and get more mature with more KYC and more TradFi people coming in. I don't know, just an idea. When you're trading options, are you more looking for like mispriced options, simple plays that you can arbitrage between different venues, or are you looking to sell covered calls or puts, or you're just straight at degening options? How are we looking at options lately?
I mean, originally I was just long calls and long puts, or selling covered calls when the time was right. But yeah, in terms of my current approach, like I wouldn't say there's any level of sophistication to it. Um, you know, I've started to use more of the DeFi protocols, which don't really seem to be that deep. The original approach that I used to take was when vol was really compressed, and I would just look to buy either strangles or straddles, depending on the setup. But even then, like when those products were available, sometimes it kind of made more sense to, from a liquidity standpoint, and the fact that margin requirements are so low in this market, it almost made sense a lot of times to buy like hyper leveraged brackets around price when it was compressed, like when it was really stuck in a range, rather than buying like, a strangle or whatnot. But
Yeah,
that, like I said, those things change, and that's sort of replicating that idea in futures still expose you to the path dependency, right? Because if you're trying to make that quote unquote premium be as low as possible, you're going to use as much leverage as possible, and you're going to be using isolated leverage to make sure that you're not exposed to any kind of risk. But yeah, for the most part, my approach has just been pretty basic. I've more or less, I haven't traded options as much as, at least in this market, as much as I've looked at this market as a better reflection of you. For example, like you're selling options and you're making your bread doing that. I think it's a great market to do that, obviously, because there's like a natural hope in this market, versus, like, you can even see this example in the way that like skews are in legacy markets, from what was it, like the 1987 crash on, when skew drastically changed for the S&P, versus this market, which is like more hopeful of upside, more a little bit more positive. Or the ETF decision is going to come tomorrow, we're going to be at 50K. There's always like that underlying FOMO in this market, I think, because it is sort of when you're describing the market, it's kind of like a caricature of legacy markets. Like it's kind of like the circus compared to trading in legacy. But yeah, so I've looked at the options market in this market more than trading it, and in particular looking at like things like, to get a better idea, or rather not a better idea, but kind of confirm. A lot of people look at, for example, like in the futures markets, one way obviously you can measure sentiment is to look at sort of the linear futures products, because those are obviously going to be sought out by, like, I would say, smarter entities that are looking to get exposure but not have that interest rate component of funding. But then you'll have people that will judge sentiment by the futures market based on term structure or funding, whether or not it's extreme one way or the other. But I think that, in terms of generating sentiment, or rather getting a better view of sentiment and positioning, I think you want to see now, especially since the market is the same sort of position reflected. The entities in that market have always been a little more than the ones that trade Delta One. So looking at like risk reversals, 25 Delta skew, 35 Delta skew, just to get an idea of like how much this market is reaching for upside, or how much insurance this market is buying at any given time. So I think that has always been valuable to companies. Kind of holistic, longer positioning type of view. I say long position because most of my trading is, honestly, like most of my trading involves between 2 minutes and 2 weeks, and most of my trading skews on the short side of things, unless I am like absurdly confident about the the overall conditions of the market, to where I could give positions kind of room to breathe. So hopefully that's was somewhat of a decent explanation.
Yeah. What's funny about this market, like you said, there's just like a lot of hopium, right? And then you get these 10,000 X's like a Pepe or something, and then that brings all the retail back, or you get the dog coin, the dog money, and that gets retail flows pushing again. But I hope for the next cycle that more people turn like this retail into pro-tail, and there's a bunch of tools for people to use as a retail individual that can help their trading excel a lot, right? And there's perps, there's options, there's a bunch of financial instruments um, that they can take under their wing and they can learn. But it just seems like the apes just want to ape. They just want to click the green or the red button, and they don't want to learn, or they don't want to take an hour to understand the simple selling covered calls on a spot holdings or something. So for me, there's a hopium that there's this next generation of pro tail traders, like pro retail traders, that come in and pick up the financial instruments for what they are, right? Not just trade perps, but trade dated futures and use options to generate income or to make money in any sort of market conditions. But I guess that's just hope for the apes. Please, if any apes are listening, we're always trying to teach. We're always trying to help learn, help teach for free, right? We're not selling a course or anything like that. And I hope that if anybody's listening, come trade options, come trade dated futures. Stop chopping yourself up and stop, whatever it is on Rollbit, 1000x, whatever Pepe nonsense. Yeah, that's totally lame.
Yeah, I mean, I get it though.
I'm not surprised.
If you're presented with two options and you don't really, and you could stomach the risk of sending your money to some like random obscure exchange not based out of your, where you are, then it makes sense for a lot of people because you're able to access, really cheap leverage. The trading fees are exorbitant. Trading like, for example, like say someone wanted to have access to trading just BTC, right? Wanted to trade BTC perps. You're able to gain access to quite a significant position with just 1% margin put up, right? Your fees are like disgusting compared to trading through like the CME, and your fees are, maybe $1.19 per trip per contract, but the margin requirements to open that position are, like 33%, and then the position is equivalent to one BTC. So the amount of money to actually swing a position and gain access to that is obviously significantly different. And then if you're trading stocks, you have the PDT rule and you have to have a minimum of 25K in your account. And, obviously Robinhood changed the game for a lot of people. But, I think options, obviously retail, I always want to say like people should try to learn about different products, but there's, even though like options have the benefit of that lack of path dependency, and I think that that's a really valuable thing to lean on. There is a lot of ways to just absolutely fuck yourself, chasing volatility by buying calls and buying puts, because buying into events, buying after events, not understanding how the market trades around events right after volatility is squashed. So, I mean, the retail has something to learn regardless of where they're trading. But like you said, like in terms of pro-tail, I think the market has, or just markets as a whole, the playing field has been leveled in a lot of ways, like in terms of like access to data. And I think it's really pronounced in crypto where the data is, it's as close to free as possible. Like you just exchange data, for example. Like if you wanted to have like really granular sort of atomized data from the CME or from legacy markets, you're paying for a data feed that can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. Whereas crypto, it's like, yeah, like we're dealing with the fact that we don't have a CME, things aren't centralized. They're spread out all across the board, but we have like 15 different, platforms and software providers that are vying for the number one spot of being number one data provider, and they're basically giving it away for free. So yeah, access to trading platforms is, again, it's cheaper in this market. So I think that the ground is kind of, or the bed is made rather, for the pro tail traders, as you say. But like, regardless, access to data, all of that, access to more sophisticated tools, like speculation is as old as the hills. Like people are going to fuck themselves no matter what, regardless of what tools they have at their disposal. But for the people that obviously are putting in the work and taking it very seriously, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like what you have at your disposal compared to, 20 years ago, trading on like dog shit brokerage platform that really didn't have much at all. So I'm with you there, like on where this market should go. I think it's probably going to take some time, honestly. So I don't see it happening in the very near future. Probably one more cycle before we see a major shift.
Yeah, the issue that I see here now in this space, right? We live in Brazil, so we have access to all the derivatives you can think of. You can trade on Deribit, you can trade on DeFi, you can hold crypto legally, you can buy and sell crypto legally. It's a pretty gray market. There's some base rule, which is essentially as long as it's not a scam, then it's okay. Once it becomes a scam or if people get scammed, then the Brazilian SEC comes in and protects the people on the back end. But there's no rules, right? Unlike the US where you have, I don't know, too many rules. You can't trade derivatives. You need, I don't know, 25,000 in legacy markets, something like that. I think you mentioned that, 25,000 to get access to CME or to trade futures or anything like that in the legacy markets. And now you finally have this gold rush of access to free leverage, super cheap leverage, all this derivatives, and then the SEC in the US comes in and just squashes all of that. How are you looking at the US? Is it going to be a competitor in the crypto space in the future, or I'm essentially writing the US off. I can go into that a little bit later, but I want to get your idea on the markets and what you think the markets will be in the US, the crypto markets.
I mean, listen, I live in, like I said, I live in New York, so my options are they're extremely limited. I mean, my options even for spot, right, for just a fiat on ramp, I could either use Coinbase or I could use Gemini. And then, we don't have to say that obviously none of those are offering the things I'm trading, and I'm not clearly spending my time trading on Coinbase. So, I mean, it sucks for the US user. It absolutely sucks. And even if you don't live in New York, New York is kind of ruled by the bit license. Even if you don't, like your options are, originally it's Kraken, it was Bittrex, you could trade on FTX and Binance US. And I say all the time, like, if it wasn't for the fact of the bit license, I would have chosen trading on FTX over trading on Coinbase. Like hands down, I would have been impacted a far more drastic way. But I don't honestly, I don't know. I feel like this market, there are a lot of that it has be said for a certain amount of AML and KYC measures in place that are clearly being, circumvented by a lot of the people that are in this, in this jurisdiction. So I get that. It's obviously it's never like just one or the other. There's something that needs to be changed for this market to go mainstream, because they're not going to have you're not going to see it go mainstream along legacy products and picked up by, saying this now, meanwhile, BlackRock is probably going to get approved for an ETF. This was never going to happen without some kind of, I guess, like calling of the flock or cleaning of the house, because you can't have a market, the US market's not going to be in a market that has most of the price discovery, in like really opaque, or really there's a lack of transparency on these exchanges that are leading the price discovery. Binance is mostly leading price discovery, more often than not, and they're not a registered entity in the United States. They are not regulated by the SEC. So I get it. Like I totally get it. But it is really unfair to obviously the end user that just wants to be able to, to punt a shitcoin. And it's not like that same level of chicanery and nonsense doesn't take place in legacy markets, like the IPO era, SPACs. Like there's a lot of garbage in traditional markets, but at least they have a measure of control over what comes to market. This market, it's like, it is kind of a joke. Like, I mean, after, you know, I, I think the market's going to last for very specific reasons. I think obviously BTC and ETH are here to stay. I think that there will be a more, I guess, a more like generational transition as this generation becomes older and head of household and is making more significant decisions with how they allocate their money and maybe their parents' money after inheriting it. And I think obviously, when boomers and people that are 70 years old write things off that are really new, it's kind of silly because it's like the dead people don't create the future. It's like the same quote in science. It's like science progresses one funeral at a time. So the youth right now, the people that are really interested in crypto, like they're going to be the ones around making decisions. So it will be here to stay. I think that BTC will increase in value over time alongside ETH. But the way that things can just pop up and come to market, I think, is clearly like there's so many grifts in this market. There's so many rug pulls. There's so many garbage vaporware bullshit products that are able to just kind of like pop up with like a small team that you build off of Fiverr. And it doesn't really take anything there's no filter for what can come to market here. So yeah, it sucks. But there is some cleaning that needs to be done. And I think that honestly, I always try to like have more of a positive view on things. I think that when things are cleaned up and this market is traded alongside or held in sort of the same esteem as legacy markets are, and has sort of the tip of the hand or tip of the hat by regulators, I think it'll allow for a larger swath of people that are maybe just like they're priced out or they don't have like that intestinal fortitude to jump in this market because they don't, they believe all the shit they see on mainstream media. And they don't, feel protected. So I think there are a good amount of people that might just passively index. So we don't have like, sorry, I tend to go on long tangents. I'm walking around outside drinking coffee. I got the cleaning ladies here. I probably look like a nut to my neighbors across the water, but there's not a lot of like entities in this market that passively index the way that you have that presence in legacy markets that sort of help create positive drift over time. So I think through selection and a lot of the garbage being more or less filtered out, the names that end up proving that they're Lindy or have lasting value, they'll sort of have that hopefully passive bid where they're, in 10 years from now, they're added to they're added to a standard portfolio. It's 1% to 2%, 3% rebalanced over time, but it helps provide a bid over time that just really isn't there right now because there's fast money here, there's retail here, but it's not like pension funds or any of, sovereign wealth funds or any of the real money is showing an interest in this market. So yeah, I think it kind of needs what's going on right now, but clearly there's a lot of people that are hurt and they're collateral damage in the process.
Yeah, I agree there. Tolga, when you were cutting out or when I was cutting out, Tolga and I went a little bit into BlackRock. Tolga, are you there? Maybe we can all chop it up over BlackRock. But my idea for this BlackRock thing is that people don't have no idea what a leveraged 2x leverage ETF even means. They don't bother to look into it.
Cut out again?
No, can you hear me?
I can hear both of you.
God. Tolga, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Well, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Internet.
All right.
Horse? Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
Horse.
I don't think the horse can hear you. He's not saying anything.
Yeah, he's not saying much.
Horse.
I do hear a horse in the background, though.
Horse.
Nay. I don't know, Tolga. Let's go into it. The thing is that people don't understand what a 2x leverage ETF means. They don't understand why a spot ETF isn't approved. I don't think the people take the time of day to even read 5 minutes or, I don't know, put it in Chat GPT or whatever, right? Look it up on Bing. You can do all kinds of shit now, right? Let's jump a little bit into that. How are you feeling after this BlackRock thing? And is this like the first stepping stone of many? Like, is this where we become like a full TradFi product in a few years?
We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there is any clear sign that they're going to have a streamlined approval process. I think the name is bringing a lot more attention than the actual application. I don't think it's materially different than previous applications, and I don't think the underlying market has materially changed. So if you kind of take it for face value, I don't think their chances are that much different or better than other people's. So not to kind of sound pessimistic, but I think we might be a little over optimistic just because of the name. But going off of what Horst said about the thing that's interesting here is just this catalyst of being able to bring on just another gateway for institutional capital, right? To get that like small allocation to diversify from like pensions and larger institutions that have like these entryways through regulated vehicles that still like are directly tied to native markets, right? Like spot markets. I think it's going to be a net positive for us, right? I don't think it's going to be a speculative vehicle. I think there's obviously perps, right? There's a 1,000,001 speculative vehicles out in crypto that you could trade if you really wanted to. So I don't think the ETF in itself is that useful from a speculative standpoint. Like a 2x ETF, like I kind of like, who cares? I think you can get 2x at literally almost every exchange venue that exists in crypto right now. And I don't think institutions generally do leverage, so I'm not quite sure where that sits. But from like a spot ETF, to me, that has a lot of that perks my attention. I think there's something to watch there.
Yeah, the thing with the spot ETF is it's more easy to manipulate, right? So there's no way that they're going to pass a spot ETF right now when there's no crypto rules. We're trading in this gray black box in the US, right? I think Canada and EU has some ETFs. 3IQ, I guess, is the Canada one. The products are out there; they're tradable, but this whole leverage thing, it just seems like it's the first step into becoming like a mature market. Like this isn't the best financial vehicle. This isn't the easiest one to trade. This isn't going to be the one, like you said, that all the institutional sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, oh, we're just going to add this into our portfolio. All the portfolio managers are not going to just add this in instantly. What kind of timeline are you thinking till we get a spot ETF? For me, it's essentially once there's some baseline crypto rules that Gary G and the SEC figure out, and then there will be more mature markets built on top of that framework. I don't think anybody wants to spend the time or money to they just don't want to burn the money, right?
100%. I mean, and then just to kind of feed off of that too is just when you talk about manipulation, that's directly related to liquidity, right? And the actors in the marketplace, in spot markets in particular, which I think is why the SEC is so interested in exchanges and in the money laundering that happens, because their product essentially is tied to that. And so until they kind of weed all that out and clean up areas that they believe that are kind of gray from their perspective in terms of like the KYC and the money itself and the source of the capital that's coming into trade, it's a prerequisite, like you said. I just don't see another way.
Yeah, it's just going to be super weird. Yeah, until there's some regulatory framework, then yeah, it's not going to be a mature market in the U.S. And I think that other hubs will pop up. I don't know. You have Brazil, you have Georgia, you have the country of Georgia, guys, not the state. You have some place, even Hong Kong now is trying to pick up some crypto stuff. I'm trying to get Horst back in here. He's requesting, but he's a co-host. DK on the Premia account, is there a way to cut his co-host so he can just come in as a regular speaker? Oh, okay. We're back. Maybe.
Yo.
Are you there, Horst?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
There we go.
God, we're
Oh my
back.
God.
It's that New York
Yeah,
internet.
no, man. Like I have really good service. So I don't know where I left off though. The last thing I said was talking about sovereign wealth funds and pension funds, and then I cut out, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So you heard up to that?
No. We went up to that, and then we started talking about a little BlackRock, and we went into how the U.S. isn't going to pass a spot ETF until there's some clear regulatory framework. That the BlackRock 2X, leverage ETF isn't the final product. It's not the last product that's going to come out. It's not the best to trade. Institutions aren't going to eat it up as much as they would a spot ETF. But right now, the U.S. can't pass a spot ETF. And for anybody who's listening, it's easier to pass a cash-settled futures ETF, leverage ETF, than it is to pass a spot ETF due to market manipulation of the spot ETF on a baseline level. And if you don't understand cash settled versus physical settled futures, and if you don't understand spot, then I'll post some resources for people to read up on that, because I posted some bullshit two sentence thread and it went crazy on Twitter, and I was like, is this not like common knowledge of a cash settled versus a physical settled ETF? That's why it was approved. It wasn't the name, it was how it was structured.
Okay, I heard all that.
Okay, and told the CF goat, so he was chiming in on his boomer chat.
You know what another thing is too?
401k.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, something that's not thought of, like, one, it was a good tradable opportunity to bid in terms of a market that was kind of reaching for any narrative or any reason to buy. Because, I mean, without it, like, the only really reliable narrative that we haven't used up, because we've already like pumped meme coins, which basically meme coins pumping is just a sign that the market has kind of submitted to the idea that the market is nonsense. And then nothing really matters. So the only real narrative that's substantial to look forward to is the halving, and I think that's probably the most reliable. So there's a good opportunity to sort of buy for a short period of time. But another thing to consider is, like, BlackRock ETF gets accepted, right? Imagine that happens. It doesn't guarantee inflows. So, it could be a complete nothing burger for a while. If anything, it just a BlackRock offered ETF. One, BlackRock clients they're not fast money. They're set and forget. Like, they're not fucking around with their portfolios. It's kind of like a Vanguard, right? It's more of like the slow, accretive buying over time that'll benefit price in the long run. But in the short run, it shouldn't really have a massive effect on the market. So it might be that the market is also kind of overcommitting or getting over its skis on the idea that it's going to, create a bull market before the halving, or give us much a larger amount of price appreciation than we've already had. Like, I think it could, it allow for some kind of quick pop, but it's entirely possible that it's better off being a sell the news thing than anything else.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've been out of the loop for the last, 24 hours. I was traveling back to Brazil, and I get back on the Twitter, and everybody doesn't understand anything about the ETF. It's all there for everybody to read publicly. Run that thing through the chatbot if you don't understand. Put it through Bing. Use Bing. What is the chatbot? And just come to an understanding of what the ETF actually is and how it works, and essentially just cash settled versus physical settled futures in TradFi, how all of that works. And once you understand that, you would simply just see, like, this isn't the final countdown. This isn't the final product. This isn't every company is going to come in and put this on their balance sheet, or every portfolio manager or fund manager isn't going to add this to their balance sheet overnight. It's a great vehicle for people to get some exposure, but it's not the golden ticket. It's not the winning trade. Tolga, you have any insight into that? A little bit more now that we got horseback, we can ping off of each other. We got a few more minutes.
I think we're all echoing the same thing, to be honest with you. I think we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. I think it's going to be like evolutionary, not revolutionary. right? And we'll see what ends up happening with like the actual product types that come out and how it evolves. I think the one thing we all kind of seem to agree on is that this is probably us grasping at just any good news that's could be possibly out there because it's been the first piece of good news in a long time. And so I think we're just a little too infatuated with it, I think, at the moment.
It's our shiny new toy.
Yeah.
Horseman Clark.
The topic of the week, right?
Yeah, exactly. The talking point, the news. We got, I don't know, a few more minutes. We started a little late. We had some tech issues. But we did a form for some questions. I don't know, I'll go through it. Question 1, is there a time in a crypto or a market cycle where options are especially a better choice to use than futures from a risk perspective, like price discovery? I don't know. I can answer that essentially. Yeah, when vol's going up into the right, you can buy some options, and that's probably going to be better than perps, unless you're on some 100x leverage, 1000x leverage, some weird, max leverage directional trade. I would prefer to be playing call spreads or outright calls or sell puts if it's directional. Sell puts to fund the long calls. How are you feeling about that, Horse? Just a simple market cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. Like the selling puts part, especially because if you're already kind of like indexing on the trend continuing up, and again, if you're positioned in that part of the market cycle, that you're willing to buy spot either way if the market ends up dropping. And yeah, you do have the component of convexity by taking advantage of it with options rather than just trading perps. So I do. I echo your sentiment.
All right. Question 2. I'm wondering, is there a different thing than a Deribit position builder? Any other tools you would recommend? Yeah, there's the Greeks Live position builder. There's the Deribit position builder. Crypto arbitrage. I'll post a link. He works for Deribit or is on the Deribit team. He has a nice Google Drive payoff Google Drive document that you can copy and use on your own. I've sent that to a few people. People found it useful. I'll put it in the link in the, I don't know, show notes or whatever after we wrap this up. Any tools you could think of, Horse, that's easy for retail attorney pro-tail to use as a crypto options position builder besides those?
No, I think you covered it. I mean, Deribit, even if you can't trade on Deribit, their position builder, I'm pretty sure, has always been public.
Yeah, and also the CME. The CME, yeah, has a universal crypto options pricer that you can simply, it's all manual, right? So it's a little slow, but if you're still in this manual phase, you can type in all of the IV, the strike, the expiration, and it will spit out the simple Black-Scholes pricing for you, and that will, I don't know, either show you like this option is mispriced, either overpriced, and help you trading. The last one that I have, I would like to strategies such as combining perps and options. I would be happy to hear about the strategy. Oh, this is the guy that wanted me to do a write-up because his English hearing ability was a little poor. So I'll cover that in a write-up. But essentially, I really like combining spot and options to create, I don't know, either selling covered calls on your spot holdings or covered puts. And I like using perps and options, but I only like using perps to delta hedge, right? So we have a bot that keeps our Greeks pretty flat, and we use perps to get that done. Of course, you have to account for fees and other things like that, but that's how we put together perps and options. Of course, are you using spot, perps, and options? Are you using perps and options?
Yeah, one thing I would add is like, can you still hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, instead I cut out, I was about to have a heart attack. One thing I would add is, if you're long the underlying or you're long perps, and you're you're taking profit, but you're not really sure about your ability to time the top, which is something you shouldn't be sure about anyway. There's a lot of the times when you could just end up picking up cheap calls to hedge the possibility of further upside. So whether you're hedging off your portfolio, shorting perps, or whether you're selling some of your spot, a lot of the times by the time the market begins to shift and puts trade a lot more richly, those calls become pretty decent to pick up. And again, just hedging upside rather than what most people are familiar with, is just hedging downside.
Yep. And do we have any? We never have anybody come up and ask any questions. It's always Tolga asking me a question, and then we keep going on. Does anybody want to come up and ask a question, or you can comment it? I don't know. We never get it. It makes me sad. We never get anybody asking questions. Of course, you have any questions for Marty? I basically interviewed you.
I'm frustrated that I would cut out so many times. Like it kind of just fucked up my cadence, but we'll figure that. I'm outside right now, so that might be it. I have my cleaning ladies are here and they're inside and they're like doing my office. I didn't want to be on this call while they're walking around.
I think the problem was you being a co-host and then you leaving and coming back, and it wasn't syncing up that you were a co-host. I don't think it was necessarily your fault. We got Fugazi Trading. I'm going to add him as a speaker. Talk to me, Fugazi. Fugazi, what do you got for me? Or horse.
What's up, bud?
Fugazi, can you unmute? No questions? Okay.
Hello?
I'm going to kick. Okay. Yep.
Can you hear me?
I got you now.
Oh, great, great. Sorry, I was running out of the grocery store. I got cut off, so. Yes, so I have a question for Marty. So I've seen you sell options a lot, of course, over the past few weeks. It's been crazy. So what I wanted to ask is, like, how do you take profit on those sales? So, like, do you just let them expire, or do you like buy or sell underlying futures to kind of take profit on option gains? Or because you said you're playing them as their like income or something. So it sounds like you can do these kind of ARBs or whatever you want to call them for like months on end. So yeah, that was kind of what I'm trying to figure out for myself right now. Like how, I mean, it's obvious you can sell options for longer terms profitable, but there is Loris in the background saying saying that one of those is going to expire in the wrong direction. So
yeah, sure.
Yes, and these 3 sigma events happen. So
yeah, I can go into that a little bit. Essentially, if you don't know the Loris talk, Loris is a Delta One market maker on Gate.io, one of the least favorable exchanges, and he doesn't trade on Binance, so he can't play with the big boys. But he took a screenshot of a sold straddle, and I said some joke like it's that easy pimps, or sorry, a strangle, some sold strangle. It's that easy pimps, and he took it the wrong way and doesn't understand Marty's jokes or anything like that. So he wasn't looking at the whole portfolio or any hedges. It was just one trade. Essentially, we like to sell overpriced options. We have a bot that scans, that scoops, that filters a bunch of data every couple seconds. It's rebalancing all of the Greeks. Any sort of manual trade, I like to hold until expiration. The bot is buying and selling at any given time. It's not like it's holding to expiration or holding for a week. When we're in these super low vol regimes, I think Loris is right? One day, this could blow up your whole portfolio. There's a famous guy, I forget the guy's name, but he did like a YouTube video. He basically was like an option seller and blew up. Yeah, I forget the guy's name.
He was crying.
Yeah, he was crying and telling everybody he's family and yeah, whatever. But Selling options are picking up pennies in front of a steamroller, right? And then one day you're going to get steamrolled. So when we're in these super, November was the last major vol spike. Then you had the ETH Chappelle update, Shanghai upgrade. That was the last kind of a vol event in ETH. And up until recently, we hit 30 vol handles where where vol was just down to the right since November. So when we're in these super long drawn out regimes, we call them vol regimes, it's just timing of the market. It's a market cycle, but it's a vol cycle. You don't want to be selling some super long dated stuff. You don't want to be selling 6 months out. You don't want to be selling a year out, unless it's all automated and your bot is rebalancing and figures it out for you. But any sort of manual stuff, I really like the dailies and the weeklies, and I like to hold those until expiration to collect all of it and to pay less fees, to collect all the theta and to pay less fees, collect all the premium. And then the bot is buying and selling, every couple seconds or whatever it feels like it needs to rebalance. And we had to put a limit on it in this super low ball regime because it was trying to buy and sell stuff in December, which I felt was a little too long because you have the halving next year, you have the presidential election next year. So I capped that on a month to 3 months out. So when we did this last little spike was, I don't know, realized vol was like 28 or something. I was about to quit crypto. I have a bet with Tolga. If vol hits 20 vol, then I have to leave the crypto space until it comes back. I put basically like a limit on the bot, not allowing it to sell long dated stuff. And then we ended up just selling. I've been public about this in the Premia write-ups or on the Twitter. We were selling short-term garbage, short-term overpriced options to fund the long-term Vega play, which essentially means that in the future we bet that IV will pick up. I don't know when. I don't know how much it's going to pick up. I don't know when. That's the hard. It's impossible to time, right? And that play seemed to work out so far. And if we continue with my thesis that 2024 is this natural vol giving event or natural vol giving year with these natural organic events, then hopefully we make a lot of money and it would work out. Does that answer your question, Fugazi?
Horse will be fine, okay? He's been a market maker for years, you dork.
Oh, one thing I'll add to that, though, Marty.
Yeah,
can you guys
talk to me?
Yeah, one thing I'll add is that at least like the benefit of this market, for anyone who's just trying to generate yield or sell options, at least you could you could experiment with that and not worry about going bankrupt because you're doing it. Whereas if you're doing that trading stocks, you could potentially be on the line for much more than the capital that you have exposed on the exchange. So, I mean, Loris is someone who I think his background is coming from traditional markets. It sounds like he's not even familiar with the fact that, people aren't on the hook beyond what they put up on the exchange. But it's not like you're not penalized in the same manner if you were going to sell, naked options in legacy. And everyone's obviously, for the most part in crypto, they are owning the underlying. So I just want to add that.
Yeah, you saw this with Robinhood, right? You had that kid, what happened? He got on the hook for like 600 grand or something. It doesn't even make sense how this was even possible, and I blame Robinhood a little bit for this, but for allowing a kid to have that much leverage. But the kid sold some stuff and it went the wrong way, and he was on the hook for a lot of money, and sadly, the kid took his own life, I guess. Yeah, that's not good. But in crypto, we're a 24-hour traded market. You're, like Horst said, you're not on the hook for anything more than is on the exchange, and they'll start liquidating or they'll start buying or selling futures on your behalf on Terabit even before you're 100% liquidated. They'll try to save you, right? Unless there's some crazy wick, I don't know, $5,000 wick or something, and it liquidates you all at the same time. But Deribit will try to save you, and will at least try to buy and sell futures on your behalf to cover some margin and to start closing your position gradually instead of like a perps liquidation all at once, right? Does that answer your question, Fugazi?
It does. Yeah. So and this algorithm that you're running, it's probably like it does all the stuff you'd read in an options book, right? So collecting gamma or like stuff like that.
Yeah, well, essentially, we're just trying to collect the max data as possible and keep deltas as close to zero as possible. We don't want to have any directional risk, and that's like the one liner of thousands of line of code, right? And I'm not the coder, right? I have a quant. It's like the Big Short, right? This is my quant. Look at him, right? Yeah, I know how markets work. I understand how markets work. I understand all of that. But when it comes to actually getting your hands dirty and coding beyond some, I don't know, some first year college Python thing, yeah, you totally lost me. I can tell you how I want it built. I can tell you what it needs to do. But when it comes to the actual physical labor of actually manually coding it, I'm not your guy, right? I have a partner. So Marty is many people.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, it's weird that you don't get questionnaires on this call, but I'm very happy to do so. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming up. Thank you for being one of our first live questions in 6 months. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. Horace, you got anything else? Cozy, Tolga, I think we're past our mark.
No, I mean, I would just say don't buy the short dated stuff. I mean, 80% options. And if you're trading on, some exchanges, you'll see for like on if you're trading options on Bybit, they're available through their it has some pretty interesting opportunities because I think, well, one, because the options market's so immature, there are probably a lot of these opportunities that I'm not picking up on. But there's a lot of times when the mark price on Bybit is like higher than the ask by a significant amount. And you know how to take advantage of that if you're trading futures and that's ever happened. But yeah, no, happy to.
I got a good reference for you. Straddle.xyz with 1D. Straddle with 1D .xyz. I guess for anybody listening, it's a arbitrage deal aggregator kind of thing, and it has Bybit, Premia, Lyra, I don't know, whoever else, Deribit, and it essentially, if you're manually trading, you can take. There's no prime brokerage that includes CFI and DeFi. Once that comes around, this will be arbed out in 2 seconds. But
Yeah.
like right now, there's a 1850 June 30th call on Bybit at 1670, and on Lyra it's $21. So there's a $4 difference. I don't know contract size. I haven't looked at it. But for any of you manual traders out there, there's some simple arbs to take care of there. It's funny because Lyra is always the most expensive. Like even Premia and then Lyra. Premia is going to be the cheaper one, and Lyra will always be the most expensive one. It's very interesting. And that's not a shill, guys. Okay, you can go look yourself.
Nice.
Cozy, DK, you want to wrap it up? Thank you, Horace, for coming on. I have a fun fact, right? Horace used to block me until... Okay, and now we made up. Now we're buddies, all right? But that was a fun time. I was always blocked by Horseman Clark because I gave him shit for longing 30K for like a month.
Listen, man, a lot of times I shoot first, ask questions later. It's just
and now we're back. All right, DK. Thank you for coming on, Horse. Cozy,
Thank
DK,
you
want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I got nothing. You go ahead. It's all you.
Cool. Yeah, Horse, appreciate you. Marty, again, always a pleasure. We do these every other Wednesday, so tune in 2 Wednesdays from now. Small plug, our trading competition is going on at the moment. If you are not signed up, it's a free chance to try out Premia Blue. It's paper trading. There's about 170K worth of prizes up for grabs. The only requirement is that you take a intro course on the Academy at academy.premia.blue. It'll get you whitelisted. You'll get some Gorelli ETH sent to your wallet. You'll be able to claim some testnet tokens and go have fun.
Thanks, Pimps. Until next week, 2 weeks. I got another shill. We got the XO listener, Trader XO listening, and Marty hears he's our next guest. So we got a pimped out lineup for sure.
Elite the alpha. All right, guys. Have a good week. We'll see you 2 weeks from now. Peace.
Peace out.
Yeah, have a good one, guys. See ya.